Hello everyone, my name is Christian. Welcome to my hobby blog. So today it's 3:25 a.m. right now. About 5 minutes ago, I just finally finished book 3 of the Licanius trilogy, Light of All That Falls. So, I want to talk about this series. It's going to be no spoilers at all. So, just so you know, you don't have to have read the books at all. I just wanted to kind of give my thoughts on the series and perhaps give you guys either a recommendation or not, depending on my feelings. So, I discovered the series through Reddit. This is everybody's favorite love child. It is book 1 is The Shadow of What Was Lost. Try to balance it. Book 2 is The Echo of Things to Come. And then book 3, of course, is this Light of All That Falls. So, this was a pretty hyped series. In general, everybody loves the ending. And that's all I ever hear about, is how well everything wrapped up. And I'm a big fan of that. I mean, I have my big Brandon Sanderson stack right here that has 12 to 13 novels by him, and each one has, the Sanderlanche, the, last 50 to 100 pages. Everything comes together really well, and everything pays off. Big fan of that. But with this series, everyone talks about the end of book 1 and the end of book 3. And so, I don't know if you noticed, but these are big, chunky books. Each book is about 700 to 800 pages each. Book 3 is the longest, clocking in at 813 pages. And I felt it the whole way. One of my big issues with this is that it is very derivative of the fantasy genre. If you've read Lord of the Rings, Wheel of Time, Brandon Sanderson, I'm trying to think any other series. Memory, Sorrow, Thorn by Tad Williams. There was a lot of elements taken from that and kind of contextualized. And it's fine. I think this would have been a much stronger series if I hadn't read really all that much fantasy in general. Because book 1 ends really well. There's a big reveal about a character. And then in book 2, we follow that character, like, sporadically. And it was the only character that I talked about, or that I cared about. It is 3:30 a.m., so excuse me. But my main issue with these books, I don't know if I've said it, but is the characters. To me, none of the characters had agency. This series is very story focused. It's not character focused. None of the characters are really unique. They don't have any agency in the story. They are not affecting the plot lines. The plot lines affect what they do. So sometimes you have plot lines where, this character is this, and the entire trilogy, the time that you spend learning about this little thing is just them. So, I guess I should just give a light spoiler, like introduction to the books and what it's about. So, it's about our 3 main characters, Davian, Rhea, and Ashalia, who all go to a school, like a magic university, kind of like Hogwarts, but it's called a Caladel, and they are learning the magic system. Very traditional, fantasy opener. It's fine. The beginning was actually very interesting. I liked it. They are preparing for these exams about, how to discover, what the power levels are, basically, and they're on the way, and the city gets attacked. And the story goes from there, and all of our characters, just like Wheel of Time or Lord of the Rings, they split off into their own stories. So it goes from there, and I won't say too much else about that, but we get some weird characters throughout. We get some fantasy villains, your traditional, ghosts and, darkspawn like creatures where, it's like orcs or trolls or so on and so forth. But again, the characters in this story just there's nothing to work with at all. The story is really good, but one of the big things I like about reading is getting inside the head of a character and really getting to know them, the motivations, the wants of life, the flaws, all of that. And all of our characters could be switched around, in my opinion. There's one character that has a big reveal at the end of book 1. He is the standout star for the whole series, in my opinion. And, I really like him, but I don't know. I really would have liked this series more if I was a new reader of fantasy. I definitely recommend it to new fantasy readers. I rated all of these books 3 out of 5, which to me is like average. That's like what I get for it's not good, it's not bad. It's just okay. But the ending to book 3 of the whole series, aside from the epilogue, I really liked it, but again, I don't know if I talked about this. I've been posting online to various groups that I am involved in, kind of being vague about my feelings, but there were a lot of elements in the ending where I was like, this is from Lord of the Rings, this is from book X of Wheel of Time, this is from Tad Williams' Memory Sour Thorn, and then he just puts it into one ending, and it's like, okay, like it's really epic, but I am reading the Wheel of Time, and I've read Lord of the Rings, and all these books, and so to me it's like, okay, like I think everyone overhypes the ending of the series. Everyone talks about how epic it is, one of the best endings in fantasy ever, which it's debatable. I think it's good. I love the epilogue just because we get, a great wrap up like before the epilogue, and then the epilogue is like, here are 2 or 3 little, plots that, you have questions about, and our characters were asking questions about in the last few chapters. Let's answer those. Okay, great. We're done. And I'm debating on unhauling these books, but there's a major story mechanic that the series uses that's a big spoiler at the end of the book 1 that recontextualizes everything, and this is why I kind of stayed with it. But it'd be interesting to go through the series again and reread it knowing everything ahead of time. It's very much like Brandon Sanderson, where you read the Mistborn Era 1 Final Empire for the first time, you're like, that was a really solid story. And then you read Realm of Ascension, and it's like, okay, like the world's building, it's really good. We're getting a wider cast of characters. And then you read A Hero of Ages, and everything's blown out the window, and it's awesome. But if you go back and reread Era 1 after finishing even beyond Era 1, reading Era 2, Stormlight Archives, Elantris, the Arcanum Unbounded Cosmere collection, all that, you pick up on all these little foreshadowings. I mean, shit. Brandon Sanderson's most recent book, Rhythm of War, which just came out in November of last year, 2020, there was stuff that was revealed in this book that was hinted at in the Final Empire and Well of Ascension. I think Well of Ascension is what I'm thinking of. And this came out like 15 years later, 14 years later. And so it'd be interesting to see if there's anything like that in the Licanius trilogy, but I don't know. I was pretty lukewarm on this. I mean, it wasn't bad. It is well written. It has great story, good action scenes. The world building was very okay. But, like, I don't know. I don't. What's his name? James Islington, the author. He did a recent Q&A, which I'm gonna have to read now that I know all the spoilers. But some of the top questions that he had was if he was gonna write more books in the series, and he has a lot like ready, but like he said he's not rushing in. Like he feels like all the stories were told, and there's actually a end note in book 3 where there was 2 characters that were mostly gone for most of book 3, and they were like heavily involved characters in book 1 and 2, and they're not there at all in book 3. And apparently he had like material for their story, and the final book ended up being like 200,000 words, 175 or so thousand words, which is a lot. And like, especially for a debut author like him, I think this series was actually self-published before he got picked up by Orbit, which is like the competitor to Tor. Both great publishers of fantasy and sci-fi. But the big thing with him is that he finished the novel, or he was like outlining it and was just kind of doing word counts of how much he thought he could do. And he got like halfway through the book, and the outline section where he had those 2 characters hadn't even begun yet. And he had it around like 100,000 words just dedicated to those 2. And so he decided to take those out, and he's going to do a side novel. I don't know if I would ever read that. Again, the series was very lukewarm for me. But I'm trying to think what else I have to say. I really don't have many thoughts, but I'd be interested to see what you guys think. A lot of people have read this. I think the ending was a little overhyped. It's great. I loved it, but I don't think people should be going around saying it's the best series ever and the best ending ever, because it creates this expectation for me that it's gonna be good. And I'm a Wheel of Time reader. I'm a Brandon Sanderson reader. Tad Williams' books even ended really well. I'm a Lord of the Rings reader, all this stuff, and it doesn't compare, in my opinion. It wrapped up really well, but I don't think you should have to slog through 2,300 pages to get to the great ending of book 3. Book 1's ending is great, but it's 2 pages. That's the reveal, is in 2 pages. And it's the epilogue. And so everything else, I don't think it's worth it. If you're new to fantasy, go read it. But if you're like me and you read, 5 to 10 fantasy novels a month, you probably should skip it. I feel bad for saying that because everybody loves it. I'm the contrarian, I guess, but I feel like I provided enough explanations. Everyone should know at this point that I read a lot of fantasy, so I know a lot of these types of stories, story beats, and so on and so forth. And the fact that I can just grab plot hooks and plot lines from other books and be like, oh yeah, that right there is from Lord of the Rings, that's from Wheel of Time, that's from Tad Williams, this is from a Brandon Sanderson novel. Like, that doesn't bode well for me. I like inspiration, but I don't like, taking stuff. So let me know what you guys think. That's about it. I wanted it to be a little short, mostly just me talking about it, no spoilers. But let me know what you thought about this video and what I've said about the series. I wish I could have enjoyed it more. I know a lot of people do, but yeah, thank you for watching.